Okay, let me start off with one simple question. What's your favorite time at school?
Lunchtime.
Yes, of course it's lunchtime. 9-year-old little me would have said the same thing. When I was 9, I moved to Canada, and during the first summer that I went there, I went to a camp. Everything was so strange back then that the only thing that could help me escape from this nervousness was a nicely packed lunch. Then I remembered my mom had packed a peanut butter sandwich, my all-time favorite lunch menu. So I opened my lunchbox and grabbed it as soon as possible and took a big bite. And at that moment, I was the happiest person in the whole summer camp. Well, I wish I could say this was what happened. But as soon as I took the peanut butter out of my box, my teacher took it. She told me that this whole school was a peanut-free zone. Honestly, at that point, I didn't even know that peanut-free zone was a thing. Free peanuts? Are they giving me free peanuts for lunch? So, that day, I couldn't eat anything for lunch, and that completely ruined my day. So, I went back home and searched up what a peanut-free zone was. Apparently, it's a rule where students should not bring any food related to peanuts. It was made to prevent students with allergies from developing their symptoms. Then I began to wonder, do we have one of those in Korea? Well, at least until now, I haven't seen one. So this little spark of curiosity led me to be interested in the general concept of allergies. So today, I wish to take you on a journey from a little chaos that happens inside of our body all the way to how our society responds. What I want you to keep in mind is that this speech isn't just about the mechanisms of allergies. It's about how our society and different cultures view public safety. So, before we go deeper into the topic, what are allergies? As you all probably know, inside of our body, there is a defense system called the immune system. And in the center of this system are antibodies, which prevent antigens from entering our body. Antigens are harmful substances that create immunological reactions. Now, if this immune system worked perfectly all the time, boom, no problem. No weird rashes, no swelling, no need for us to even talk about allergies right now. But it just doesn't. It sometimes malfunctions, and that's where all the trouble starts. Allergy is a type of malfunctioning inside our body system in which our body overreacts to a small minor stimuli, ultimately leading to different symptoms. Symptoms of allergies vary broadly from person to person. For example, it could be sneezing, vomiting, getting rashes or hives all over your body, and a lot more. Of course, the best way to prevent the allergies is to not get in contact with the allergen in the first place. But life is not always that easy. But before we talk about the solutions of allergies, I want to go over how type 1 allergies actually work. So, when a certain allergen, it could be bee venom, pollen, medication, food, or all other kinds of stuff enters our body panics, producing massive amounts of antibodies. Usually the ones that are called immunoglobulin E antibodies, in short, IgE. Next, these IgE antibodies move over to cells that produce chemicals like histamine, ultimately leading to allergic symptoms. So, if the system worked perfectly all the time, it would be no problem. But like I said before, it just doesn't. And the only way for us to cure this right now is, there are 4 ways to cure this right now. So people use nasal sprays, take EpiPens, and do immunotherapies, and also just not get into contact in the first place. But at this moment, it is still impossible to cure allergies permanently. To give us a little break from all the science and medical stuff, I want to tell you my own personal story. So, I'm allergic to artificial grape flavored things. Well, I guess it could technically be because of something else, but let's just say that me and grape flavored things have had a history long enough to derive that conclusion. So here's one story. Once, when I was younger, I used to sneak in all the grape flavors secretly and shove it all in my mouth at night. And every single time, I ended up in the ER room. Here's another story. Once, I had a fever, so I took a medication to alleviate my fever, only to find out that the medication was actually grape flavored. So I just ended up adding swelling and rashes to the list of things that doctors need to fix for me. So the conclusion here is that symptoms of allergies for allergy patients like me, symptoms like swelling and getting hives is very common, though I would have had one more symptom. Getting banned from buying my favorite grape flavored candies for the next 10 years by my mom. So let's look at the cultural aspect of allergies. As a person who has lived with allergies in both South Korea and Canada, I can tell you that even though the condition itself is the same, it feels like two totally different ones depending on which culture is surrounding it. First, let's look at how East Asia treats allergies. From a very young age, I was told that cooking for someone or sharing food is an act of showing love. In a society where affection basically equals to sharing food, it can be very hard to refuse the food that someone else have offered for you, because it just seems impolite or rude to refuse someone's act of kindness and love. Next, maybe because of this atmosphere, I've noticed that the drawbacks of allergies are often underestimated. For example, when I told people that I was allergic to grape-flavored things, they replied with things like, I used to be allergic to something once, but it went away as I aged. Or, it's just a tiny bit and I gave it to you, so you need to try it, and you'll be fine. But I wasn't fine. Furthermore, I feel like in Korea, allergies are more considered as personal inconveniences that individuals have to tough out and adapt themselves, rather than something the whole society could take into considerations. Once, in my school cafeteria, my friend went to get a pasta for lunch. But she found out that she was allergic to one specific ingredient inside of the pasta. So she went to the convenience store instead and got something else for lunch. But there was no other options for her, and no one there for her to give her something else for lunch. Now, despite all of this, the awareness of allergies is still growing rapidly in South Korea. For example, schools, kindergartens, and restaurants, they're mandated to post allergen information, and parents, when they're holding a playdate or birthday parties, they're more careful of what kind of food they bring. But still, culture's emphasis of conformity still results in situations where individuals have to tough out and adapt to the systems themselves. Now, let's look at how Western side of community treats allergies. I'm not trying to say that Western style is always perfect, but I've noticed a few significant distinctions. For example, in Canada, as I've mentioned in the very beginning, peanut-free zones are very prevalent. EpiPens are well prepared in public spaces, and asking if someone has allergies in advance is very natural. However, this very well-prepared system has its own consequences. For people who don't have allergies, it might feel unfair. For example, for kids like me, who are basically obsessed with peanut butter and Nutella sandwich, it can be very frustrating to not be able to eat your favorite food for lunch just because of someone else's allergies. So, what can we do? How can we balance between ensuring freedom and while also ensuring safety? How should we approach allergies? The Asian way or the Western way? So, here's what I think. Neither East Asia nor North America has the correct answer. We need to consider each community's unique traits and develop a system where allergic patients can live safely within that frame. For instance, East Asia can center more on developing more protections or reducing pressure on allergic patients to say no to food they're offering. On the other hand, for Western communities, they can focus more on dealing with limits with more flexibility, while also ensuring safety. Now, this little one single piece of peanut butter sandwich that I never got to eat has taught us more lessons than just good taste. Now we know that allergies are a big deal. It's a serious condition where a small minor allergen entering your body can bring life-threatening consequences. Not only that, but also that allergies are not just medical conditions. It's about how we balance between the considerations for the minorities and convenience of the majorities. It's about how we sometimes need to step out of the comfort zones of cultural norms for the safety of those we care about. And even more deeper, it's about how we shape our society. Again, allergies are a big deal. Because after all, health is never just about what's happening inside of our body. It's about how we care and live together. Thank you.